everyone, this is Annie from Stamp Anything. Today I'm going to show you how to make Andy's back room wallpaper. So I am using a slimline card. These are the card bases that we sell in our shop, but you can do this with any slimline card size that you want. You just need to make sure that you have a mat to do your ink blending on that will fit on the top of your slimline card. And then you're also going to need a strip of paper that is the length of your card and then 3/4 of an inch in height, and then score it at 1/4 inch. And that is what's going to form the trim of the baseboard of the wall that we're going to be creating. Okay, so you're just going to want to make sure that measures up. And I'm just going to place it down on my card where I'm eyeballing the wall trim to go, just so now I know how far up and how far down I need to ink blend for my blue for his wall and the brown for his floor. So I'm using Stamp Anything's hybrid ink in Caribbean Sea. And all I'm going to do is I am just going to ink blend the top portion of my card. I'm using our palm held hand blending brushes. These really just give a really nice, flawless and smooth blending for your ink blending. It just gives you a little bit more control. It does a nice soft blend as opposed to the smaller brushes because it is a larger brush. And I am just adding my ink to create that powder blue background for the top portion of my wall, and I'm going to continue doing this to that pencil line that I drew in, so I know how far down to go for the wall. So we're just going to keep continuing to do that and just adding in more ink as we go. It's just going to be a nice, soft powder blue to represent the sky for Andy's wall. And I just like to always darken my edges just a little bit, just so it kind of defines the card shape for me. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start on the bottom part of our card, and I'm going to be using a brown hybrid ink. So I'm using Stamp Anything's hybrid ink in Pecan, and I'm just going to repeat the process like we did for the blue, but this time I'm going to be doing it in the brown color to do the floor part of our card. So I'm just blending that on, and I just needed to just add a little bit of color. We are going to be using Copic markers to make like a wood grain for his floor. So we just want to get the color down so that when we add our markers, there's not white showing through it. It's going to be the beige color. So I'm just using a very light pressure just to get a nice little tan color down there. Okay, now that I have my ink blending done, I am going to go ahead and grab the trim just so I can see where it's going to line up to make sure I have, you know, area for the floor and then the area for the clouds. And I am going to take our Desert Builder stencil. It has the clouds on there for Andy's room. And I'm just going to go ahead and position my stencil down. I am going to do this in white embossing powder because I want the clouds to be a really nice bright white. And I am just going to use our embossing pad and a small brush, and I'm just going to go ahead and I am going to blend the little cloud area of the stencil. And I'm just going to show you this technique. You're just going to kind of brush it in there so you maintain the shape of the stencil. And you want to go a little bit easy because some of these pads can be very juicy and you don't want them to go underneath the stencil. If you've ever done embossing before, you know, you can just stamp it with the stamp pad, but I find that it gives more of like a bubbly effect as opposed to a smooth effect. So once I would have done that, I'm just going to show you one or two clouds and then I'm going to go ahead and finish it off screen. But then I'm going to take our Stamp Anything embossing powder, and this is in porcelain white. It is a true white. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to go and pour that on to the clouds that I just stenciled on with our embossing pad. And it's going to make the embossing powder now stick to the parts that I just stenciled on. And then you always just want to do a little bit of a cleanup. So I always have a paintbrush handy, and I'm just going to get all of those flyaway specks of embossing powder that is not in the shape of my cloud, and then clean it up a bit. And then I'm going to take my heating pen tool, my heat gun. I'm doing this off camera. Just getting that all set. It's going to melt the plastic of that embossing powder, and it's going to form the clouds. So now that they're going to be embossed and they're going to be nice and white against that blue wall for Andy's room. And if you've worked with embossing powders, you know that you should always, and there you go, that's the little clouds. And now I'm going to just really quickly finish the stencil and do all of my clouds. And this is what it looks like when it's all done. And then I just wanted to measure up my trim again so I know about where I'm putting our floor. And I'm going to just grab a see-through roller rather, sorry about that. And I am just going to make some markings for myself so I can kind of eyeball where I want the lines to go in the grain of the wood. So I'm just lining up my ruler, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a mark at each inch interval, and then at each half-inch interval. And this is just going to help me kind of get the perspective part of the floor that I want, because I don't want them to be straight lines. I want them to be more of a point perspective line. And then I'm just repeating on the bottom as well, marking my little intervals with a pencil. And basically what I'm going to do is I am going to take those pencil marks that I have, and I am going to go ahead and create a little bit of a grainy wood floor. And you can do this with any of your Copic marker colors in the brown family. It just depends on, you know, what kind of wood floor you want, a light wood, a dark wood, whatever. And I'm just going to be using this marker, and the center of the card is going to be the only one that is a straight line that goes up and down. Then I'm going to connect the dots, and I'm going to start going on an angle like so. And this is just a base. They don't have to be straight. It does not have to be perfect, because you're going to be adding in so many of these lines that the ones that look a little cockeyed, you're not even really going to notice them when they're all completed at the end. So I'm just adding in my little lines, and now I'm able to go and add all of this, the grain lines in between the ones, now that I know the direction of how my floor is going, and then I'm going to start turning it towards the center where it's going to go straight, and then it's going to start angling out again, going down towards that right hand side of the card. And you can see these are not perfect. It's mismatched. Some are thicker than others. Some have more space in between them. It's okay. You're just going to be laying down a couple of colors like this, and then we're going to meld it all together and add some detail, and it's going to look absolutely stunning when you're done. So now I'm just going in with a lighter color. This is E31. It's just going to soften that E35 that we had down, and it's just going to blend the colors a little bit. And it's also helping to saturate your paper so that when you start adding in more colors and more of the lines, they'll just start being a little bit more cohesive together and blending. And now I'm taking another color of my E30s. Again, that one was dried out, so I had to take that off screen. And I just randomly grabbed another color. And that's what I'm saying. You can grab and use whatever colors that you want. I'm using the E30 family because I wanted him to have like that blonde color wood grain floor. I didn't want it to be dark. When I referenced Andy's bedroom on Google, he had like a light wood floor. And so I'm just filling in more with stroke lines again, and it's just filling in some of those bigger gaps. And you're just going to keep doing this, and you'll see that it's going to start to look a little less stripy. And you're just filling in those areas. And the top, obviously the lines are not a straight line. That's why we drew our little pencil line, so we knew at least how high we had to go up, but our trim is going to cover that. And then we're just taking another marker. Again, we are just blending it so it softens the color we just added, but it also melds them together to make them blend. My marker is actually running out of ink at this point, so you can see I'm pressing pretty hard on there to try to get it to go. That happens sometimes. I'm just filling in again where I had some gaps in my colors. And you'll just continue doing this until you see a lot of all those gaps are all filled in and you have more of a uniformed look with all of your browns in this area of your card. And we're still going to be adding detail to it, so you don't have to worry about wobbly lines or a missed area, because like I said, when everything is added on at the end and in the details, you're not going to notice that you have, you know, a line that's not perfectly straight. It's more just to create that illusion of that wood floor and to ground your card as a whole. And now you can see when I do that, the perspective of the floor, it's not a straight floor. And that's why we did not do straight up and down lines. And now I'm just going to go in with a brown colored pencil, and I'm just adding lines again. That's it. I'm just adding those lines on top of the marker that we did. It just adds more detail, and it also adds a little bit of a contrast of the color because it's a darker brown. And you're just going to continue and pulling those lines just like you did with your marker on an angle until you get to the center of the card, and then it's going to go straight, and then you're going to start angling it out again, going to the right of your card. And this is as easy as it gets to make a wood grained type floor with a perspective, so it's not straight up and down. And that is what we were trying to accomplish here. Okay, and now we're just going to take our light color marker and just go over the whole thing one more time. It's just going to set that colored pencil in so it's not just laying on top of your card. It's now going to blend in with your markers. It's going to become part of your card. And it just all melds together really nicely. And now we can go ahead and take our trim. And I'm just going to go ahead and add some glue to the back. And again, this is the length of your card, about 3/4 inch tall, and then scored at the 1/4 inch mark for that trim. And then you're just going to put it on straight to your card, making it level on both sides, and just gluing it down. And I just wanted to add a little bit of detail to it. So I'm using one of my toner grays, my T0. And I'm literally just going to be flicking in the sides. Now, toner grays are a very, very light marker. It's going to add just a little bit of color, not a lot, but on white, you will be able to see, and it adds kind of like a shadowy area to it. And I just wanted to darken in the ends of my card of the trim. It's not anything that's overwhelming. It's not a bold gray, but it's just going to give some definition and turn that trim to look more like it's a weathered piece of trim. And then I stamped out a sentiment, "You got a friend in me." And I also cut out a star die and a circle die because I'm going to make the Pixar ball. And the star die is from one of our dies. It's the shooting star label die. We have a small die in there. So I just cut that out, and I'm going to color that in with a couple of different shades of red. So if you have a circle die and a star die, you just want one that's going to be, you know, good to scale to make into a Pixar ball. You don't want a super big circle for the ball and then a super tiny star. You just want to make sure you have ones that are pretty much good in scale to represent the ball. So this star was perfect. And then I used, actually I couldn't find my circle die that I wanted to use. So we have a door hanger die, and I just cut the part that goes on the door for you to hang it on your door hanger. And I just used that part to make the ball. So it was really super and easy, but it would happen to be like the perfect size. You can always just, you know, if you have a hole punch of a circle or stars, you can do that as well. I just wanted to add more things to my card than just my Woody image and, you know, have him on the, I wanted to have that Pixar ball. So now I'm just going to color in the ball. And the ball is yellow with the blue stripe. So I curved my line like it would be curved on the ball. And now I'm just coloring it in with a couple shades of the yellow. And I just want to make sure my line is nice and crisp, because when I go over that with the blue, I'd want to not get into the yellow, because then it's going to turn it have a green tint. Yellow and blue makes green. So you just want to go really up against the edge as best as you can. And you just want to add, you know, a relatively thin line for the blue. And that's what we're doing here. And then we'll color in the rest of the ball yellow. So we're just making those edges as smooth as we can, like I said, because now we have to go back to the yellow, and I didn't want to mix my colors. So there is the yellow again. And now we're just going to finish coloring it up. And here's the making of our Pixar ball. And we have a stamp, Anthony, you got a friend in me. That is what we used to represent Woody in our card. If you are interested in seeing the full coloring of that video, you'll be able to find that on our YouTube page. We also have a Brooke 𝐂𝐨𝐧𝐧𝐞 stamp, and she would be perfect if you wanted to make Jessie as well, to put them both on the card. You can do that as well. And now I'm going to take the star, and I'm actually going to have it where it's hanging off the ball, and then I'm going to cut it because I want the ball like as if it's on its side a little bit, so you wouldn't see the whole of the star. It would be kind of tucked over the end. So I just like to do things with perspective in that way, that everything's not straight on when you're looking at it. So I'm just turning it over, and I am cutting the excess off. And now I have my little Pixar ball. And then we have our ball, and we have our sentiment, and then we would have our colored image. And when it's all done, this is what I ended up with. So I colored him up to look like Woody with his hat, and I added the little plaid shirt. And this is it. And I hope you enjoyed it. And I just put the mat on a card base, and that was it. Have a great day, and thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time at the next Shop at Home Expo. Have a good day. Bye.